What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Show and Tell After Dark, where we talk about all things art, all things music, and all things Boston. Tonight, we have a different episode where we are talking about addiction and recovery. So, let's get into it. My name is Cricket Smith. I have my friend to the left of me. What's your name, friend?
Tata.
And let's go around the room. Connor, we're going to start with you. You say your name, what you represent, and then we'll get into it.
Conscious Wisdom, Roxbury, BX, Love and Light.
My name is Spencer. I represent Victory Outreach.
My name is Siobhan. I represent Rosie's Place and the spiritual experience and the recovery of one's purpose and God's purpose for your life and His will and righteousness.
My name is Eric, and I also represent Christ through Victory Outreach, and that's what's up.
All right, so my name's Ty. Man, I represent, lived experience, going through the ups and downs of addiction. I represent a person from the community, school to hard knocks, and overcoming. Represent overcoming. So I'm representing for all the overcomers and still the sick and suffering out there that is still under the influence.
Right.
That's what's up.
I meant to ask everybody, could we just go around and say, what's our experience with recovery or with addiction so the audience can know exactly who we're talking about and what our experiences are? You can go around the circle. You can start.
See, I'm trying to say how to say that brief as possible so my people can talk. So I was born and raised here in Boston. I grew up, in an environment of people using, selling, hoes, prostitutes, and pimps and things like that. Went through, started addiction like around 15 to 16. Mm-hmm. Was able to overcome that, go to school, graduate. But then after I graduated, graduate college. After that, my addiction grew full grown. And then I end up in full-grown addiction for about close to 20 years on the streets, down and out. And I was able to get up on my feet by the grace of God and, go through the process, one foot in front of the other. And, I'm here now.
So it started early. I'm first generation here, and never knew my dad. He was involved with drugs and gangs, and then he got deported when I was 1. My mom passed away when I was 10. I slowly gravitated towards the streets, and I grew up in Southern California where the Cholo scene is, like a Latin community, Cholo scene. So I found myself, in circles where they were smoking weed, and before you knew it, I was just, I was smoking weed, and it's just like, hey man, we smoke weed every day. That's what we do, And after that, at 15, I found myself dabbling with pills, alcohol, and by the time I was 17, I was just full blown doing meth, coke, all that. Got kicked out of school, was in the streets already, and then it just got worse. Before you know it, I was doing crime, in and out of jail, and I was heavily addicted to substance abuse, to cocaine, to meth, and so it was in jail, in and out of jail, and I knew if something doesn't happen, man, I'm gonna either be dead, do the rest of my life in prison, but it was at the same time it was in jail where they came, Victory Outreach, the church came, and they started testifying about God and how Jesus can change you. And something in my heart was like, man, I genuinely want to change. So I had an encounter with God once I got out of jail, and by the grace of God, I've been clean now for 14 years.
Amen. All right. Okay, then. Well, I'm going to start. My experience is since 9 years old, just like sadness, emptiness, loneliness, a void. So by the time I was 14, it was well, maybe you need Prozac or something like that. So I'm I'm kind of leery Prozac. Prozac. Everybody oh no, she crazy.
Yeah.
But moving fast forward to when I carried my first child, 23, I say, that's when I experienced was diagnosed with mental illness, clinically depressed or manic depression. And then I got on the medication, and then on top of experimenting, when I wasn't on the medication, I would self-medicate because I was against taking medication because to me that's really not Christ's way. That's really not of God, to be keep it 100. That's really not God's plan for us because I believe that he's still in line of miracles and he's a healer. So the whole idea of taking medication, it just instilled well in my soul as a teenager. You just something don't feel right, it just don't feel right. And so I would self-medicate and use crack, cocaine, and this, that, and the third. And it only led to hospitalizations and incarcerations because when you don't have the medication, you self-medicate, and whatever you do to get the drug street medication ends you up in jail. So 20 years of that off and on, nonstop, consistently, was like was traumatic. You know what I'm saying? And then I was told that it's a greater loss not to take the medication than to deal with the side effects. So to me, that was supposed to be a balance. That was supposed to be my new balance. That okay, I'm gonna put on 200 pounds or 300 pounds, and I'm gonna put on all this weight, and I'm gonna lose my inspiration for life. My disposition was null and void to live my life, and it actually sucked all the life out of me. And but this was supposed to be, I was supposed to be on board with this. Everybody was encouraging me that this is okay. This is okay. It's better than living life on life's terms, dealing with these symptoms, which I'm like, at the time the symptoms were so raw that it was like, I guess it makes sense knowing in my heart that this is a poor excuse for a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, it was like, all right then, kind of let go and let God at the whole process was, I'm going to lean on God 100% no matter what. We're going to pray daily. We're going to go hard in our spirit. But at the same time, it's like, well, I don't see no way out because this is a revolving door. And this is ongoing and nonstop for several years. So you kind of become self-defeated and discouraged. You kind of think this conspiracy, people trapping you and this, that, and the third, for whatever it is, be that as it may. But at the same token, it's like, well, what can I do? I'm going to just save some of the story. I'm going to leave it with that, how I got introduced to it, and we'll jump back in, and then, I could complete, the thought process. Period.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, for myself, I kind of had like probably the opposite upbringing of even like my brother right here. My mom tried to raise me like really like with good values. Not saying that anyone's didn't, but I would probably be the last person that someone would think would end up in a lifestyle of like drugs and stuff like that. That's my point. Although I came from a broken home, I succeeded in school growing up. So I probably would, like I said, like probably the last person someone would think would end up in like drugs, homeless on the streets, which is what I would later become. But yeah, so at around the age of about 15 years old, I started to dabble with like marijuana. I started to dabble with other drugs, and which was like completely contrary to like the person that I was. I was always like straight A student, highest honor roll, AP classes, doing real good for myself. But I just had like a curiosity. I would say I had an emptiness inside of me, like that I didn't really feel. I wouldn't say like I was depressed or I wasn't like sad, but I think there was an emptiness inside of me, and that led me to experiment with drugs. Fast forward a little bit to the age of 19. That's when I started using heroin. I used heroin for the first time at age 19, and then it just grabbed a hold of me. I just totally just threw my life down into the gutter, I would say, down the drain completely. And yeah, I was in and out of rehab programs, detox facilities, treatment centers, inpatient, outpatient programs, and yeah, I just could never really get clean, and I just had lost everything that I thought was valuable in life. Money, cars, relationships, family relationships, material possessions, everything was just wasted. But yeah, it just got worse before it got better. I kind of stopped the treatment centers, and I was homeless for like 6 months. I had to resort to just hustling every day on the streets, trying to get money just to stay well. Because with the heroin addiction, you physically withdraw. Like it's horrendous, Like no one could really understand, like unless you have lived through that, like what it's really like. It's not just like, oh man, she's like, I want to get high, or oh, that would be cool to get drunk, or high today, I want to smoke or do this. It's like, no, like I have to, like it's like an absolute, like there's no options, like you're going to, like because you can't stand the symptoms so bad, like it's just crazy. But yeah, and then so similar to Eric here, someone encountered me from our ministry, from our church. We're a part of the church now, Victory Outreach, and yeah, just some random strangers came up and crossed paths with me one night. I was holding a cardboard sign at a gas station, and yeah, that's where God really changed the course of my life. And
that's a real story. You was literally holding a cardboard sign, and somebody approached you.
Yeah, at the end of my addiction, because at first I was stealing, boosting from stores, selling small little amounts of drugs on the streets just to feed my own habit. But then I became my own best customer. So I wasn't a good drug dealer, even just little small quantities. I couldn't do it, and then. So I resorted to holding a sign. It was so humiliating for someone like myself to have to resort to doing something like that. Like I was like 3 miles away from the college that I dropped out of.
Oh wow!
Just down the freeway, and like here I am. My mom, my dad don't know if I'm dead or alive. Last they had heard of me was like 6 months ago when I left the rehab. Actually, I didn't leave. I got kicked out. But and I was trying to do good. But anyways, yeah. So I resorted to holding a sign to make money and yeah, but then so that's the night. It was January 8th, 2016 when this couple crossed paths with me, and then yeah, they told me about first they told me about the Lord, and they asked me if I knew Jesus Christ as my Savior, and I was like, I have a background, like I believe in God, but I would consider myself like a Christian, but I obviously don't live my life in any way like I know I probably should, but yeah, so I'm out here on the streets. I'm a heroin addict, and then they asked if they could get me into a Christian men's recovery home that night. Would I be willing to go? And then I just told them like I've been in and out of treatment centers programs. I'm kind of like done trying, but I still like wasn't done trying at the same time, if you know what I mean. Yep. So, but yeah, I went with them. Long story short, and it's been over 7 years now. So.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah.
Congratulations.
That's just yeah.
All right.
That's just a little bit,
I think for me, I've always been with the disease of addiction. I was born with the disease of addiction, and I'll die with the disease of addiction. It started for me as a child. I'll even use this, Barbie dolls. And it's funny because like the Barbie movie's coming out, and every time I see something about the Barbie movie, it just brings me back to being a child and excessively wanting Barbie dolls. Like, one was too many and 1,000 wasn't enough. I needed every doll that came out. I needed every outfit. I needed every car. I had the limousine. I had the RAV4. I had the convertible. I had the dollhouse. I had the plane. And there was nothing that would satisfy my thirst for Barbie dolls. So I was very compulsive, over-obsessive and compulsive about Barbie dolls. And being that young, I didn't realize that was the disease of addiction. It was the filling a void or fixing a feeling with another feeling. It was the fantasy. It was the illusion. So it started there. As I got older, it changed. It went from one obsession to another. From Barbies to food, from food to boys, from boys to cigarettes to weed, and it just grew. And it's not even so much just about the things or the tangible things. Sometimes it can be people, sometimes it can be places, sometimes it can be behaviors. I always tell my family, like, it's bigger than just the drugs and alcohol. Like, it's attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors, where I see a lot of people and I'm like, they're in active addict mode, but they're not using, you know what I mean? It'll just be like that negative thought patterns where it's like you're looking for a certain result, and the insanity will have you caught in the loop of doing the same thing but expecting different results, or doing one thing that is not conducive to obtaining those results. Like, you're looking for love, but you're acting out in violence. You know, you're pushing people away, but you want them to come closer. You're saying one thing, but you're doing another. And it's funny because me and my girls be like, it's giving Chinese movies. Like, you know, it's giving like one thing, the audio is not matching the behaviors, but that's the disease of addiction, where it's like, you want something, and like Siobhan said, like that God feeling, I think everyone pretty much touched base on it, like that void that everyone's trying to fill, like, and I don't want to cry, it can only be filled by God.
Amen.
It can only be filled by God.
She just dropped
like,
off. She done took the cat out the bed.
There is absolutely, positively nothing that will satisfy is separate from my creator. You know, and then there's like certain things that there are healthy addictions as well. And the healthy addictions are the talents that were given to us by God. Like, what are the things that you're innately good at? You know, are you good at sewing? Are you good at singing? Are you good at dancing? Like, pour into those things. And the more you do those things actively and you're obsessing and compulsing over those things, like, the more you love yourself, you know, so the less you're looking for that love anywhere outside of it, you know, because you feel good. You feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But like, I feel like in this world, oftentimes, like Siobhan touched base on mental health, like, I can identify with that as well. There's more money in the medicine. There's more money in keeping us messed up. There's more money in you need to buy the latest Jordans. You need a chain. You need the cars. You need the hoes. You need this. You need that. So I get it, and I don't want to step on capitalism's toes, but, you know, there's more money in that and less in just, like, self-love. But I forget where I was going with this. But you know what? At the end of the day, to God be the... You know, I see that and I was like, maybe my lips is getting dry too. Where's my lip gloss? Like, you know? Don't do that. But yeah, so for me, I was born this way. I will die this way. I'm just in a place right now where I'm just looking for healthy addictions and trying to just continuously pour into myself.
So before we continue on, I just have a quick question. What's your name again? I want to make sure I get your name
Spencer.
right. Spencer. How'd you do it, man? When they came and got you, did you do a cold turkey? Did you go to the detox program? How'd you do it?
Actually, I did kick heroin cold turkey that time. I think I had some medication, like over-the-counter medication, because it was a Christian home, so it wasn't like a legit, like, go to like a medical detox where they're going to give you like Xanax or Suboxone and kind of wean you off a little bit. And it's just more like anti-diarrheal, anti-nausal, stuff like that. But honestly, I would say really, I believe it was also like the power of God. I had people around me praying for me. And I believe that like in that there is so much power, you know, for God to really do miracles. Like, I think like multiple people have touched upon like their faith. So, I mean, for us who are people of faith, I think we can attest to that belief. Like, we believe that God's a God of the impossible, and He could break chains in our lives and set us free from addiction or whatever it may be.
Right.
I don't know. I was gonna say, for me, my family struggles with alcohol abuse. Like, my father drank himself to he's like in a vegetative state right now. My mother, in my mother's family, definitely alcohol abuse is a thing. And I'm definitely susceptible to it. I even tried going to like an AA meeting. But my thing is like, can I ask you guys, do all of you guys believe that addiction is a disease? Like all addiction?
I believe
If you just raise your hands.
I believe that addiction is a weapon formed against us, and the only way it can prosper is if you allow it.
Mm-hmm.
By agreeing to it.
By agreeing to it.
Agreeing with
by
it.
By making yourself and allowing yourself to be subjectable to its power.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
You know, and I just wanted to drop this real quick. The 5, 6, 7 steps on the 12 steps state, you know, explains how being powerless and giving it to God and letting it go. So God is definitely relevant. You can't be no more clear than saying you're going to need God to get through this. It states it. They could have sugarcoated, they could have twisted words, but they blatantly flat out tell you it comes down to this. It comes down to God. And the first thing He wants you to know is that the First Amendment, the first thing He wanted to tell you before He said anything in terms of aligning your life with His purpose and His will for you, is the First Amendment the first commandment, was to love Him with thy whole heart.
Heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Thy whole heart, thy whole mind, and thy whole soul. That's the very first step. It wasn't the steps on there, but 5 and 6 was very significant because the first thing He says is that I'm going to need you to do this before anything else can take place in your life.
So without this, nothing else will happen.
Nothing else can happen. Nothing else. Nothing else is going to take place until you pull this off here. You understand? So I just want to leave that. Now we can move around.
You didn't raise your hand.
Oh yeah, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe when it comes to drugs and alcohol addiction and like being an addict, I believe it's a disease. It messes, of course, with your brain and your body. You're depending on it. So it just psychologically, emotionally, physically, you're drawn to the substance, and that can be categorized as a disease, and it just changes you, who you are, and all you care about is getting high. All you care about is that feeling, and in all reality, it's just numbing a deeper issue. That's what I believe. There's a root cause for us to feel a certain way. It's this escape. It's an escape, right? We escape reality. We drink, smoke, do whatever, but it's really like just sugarcoating or not dealing with the real issue that stems from the inside, So, yeah.
Oh, and that scripture was Matthew 22nd, verse 34 through 40. If y'all want to get that.
Y'all heard
That
Siobhan.
first commandment.
Thank you. That was great clarification too, because everybody needs to know
You
it.
gotta have something to back you up.
Right, some context.
Stand on.
When you all were like realized that you had a problem, and you guys first wanted to get into recovery, what were some of the things that?
Tata, I'm gonna cut you off. I want to answer that question.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, and then I will just touch on it briefly after if I can.
Yeah, no, is addiction a disease,
Oh, okay, go ahead.
right? So I'm gonna share. I don't believe it's a disease.
Oh, okay, you didn't raise your hand? I didn't see
Right?
that.
I don't believe it's a disease. Now, here's the thing: it's complex, right? It's a complex, and I'm gonna draw this out there and say, first of all, I don't care if it's a disease or not, right? My care is how you live your life, given the circumstances that if you fell under, right? How will you overcome and how you walking each day? How is your life being more productive since you put the substance down? Right? That's my primary care, and my primary care is helping other people to overcome the addiction. Right? Now let me break down the addiction. I don't believe the addiction is not a disease type deal. I believe, right, that so NAA talks about it being a phenomenal craving, right? You have this phenomenal craving, right? I believe it's a disease as in dis-ease. Right. There's books out there that people don't talk about. It talks about the neuroscience of addiction, right? So psychologically, the addiction, you can have a habit that actually changes your habits, change your brain patterns, right? And so after a while, right, what happens is that once you get through a substance consistently, right, and you consistently act in a behavior, right, then once you no longer have any control within your own being, as in you're no longer making free choices and you're making choices against your own will, then I believe that it becomes a disease, right? And then that's when it breaks down to, that's when you could break it down to having to need, like, because heroin, right, alcohol, you can die from withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
So when you get into the point where you can die from having a withdrawal symptom from a substance, and you need mental, you need psychological, and you need health care, detox, and all that, and medicine to come off that. That's when I believe alcohol has grown. The substance has grown into a disease. Initially, first. Man, I gotta be careful because I want to respect time, right? Initially, right? I believe, everybody said they believe in God here. For me, God is like, universal principles, things that I practically apply in everyday life that help me to overcome. You reap what you sow, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Once. I lost my train of thought. I want to respect.
All right. Well, God put this on me real quick to explain what addiction actually is. It's referred to as iniquity.
Iniquity.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's what he just touched. He just told.
And what's
me to put
iniquity?
that out. Iniquity is something that you struggle with over. Okay. Iniquity is something you struggle with over and over again. He states that people that clothed in white, you feel me on that? They are clothed in white from iniquity. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's all.
Okay, that's it.
That part.
That's all you needed to say.
That's all I need to
100%. My question is, that was good. And I recommend everybody that has
No, go ahead.
that heard what Siobhan just said right now, don't go by what Siobhan just said. Go look in the dictionary at what the word iniquity actually means for yourself. Go look it up.
Amen.
Matter of fact, and go look up the origin in which the word iniquity itself came from. Look at that origin. Look at everything. Define the words, because that's where the devil or the enemy or the dissonance comes from. It's from you thinking that you know one thing and something being the complete opposite, and that agreement just not resonating. There's a dissonance. The music sounds crazy. It just doesn't sound right. So look that up. Another question too is, what are some common misconceptions that people have around addiction? When people think addiction, when regular people think addiction that have never been addicted before, people that have never been addicted to anything, people that have.
Are there people who have never been addicted to anything?
Maybe, but people that cannot identify with addiction or don't really know what it is. What are some common misconceptions? Because some people don't realize that they are addicted. There's some people that eat food every day who don't realize that they are addicted to that food. You know what I mean? So what are some common misconceptions that people have when they think of the word addiction, or when they think of people that are addicted to something?
Well, she's looking at you, so I think she wants to.
No. I'm looking at just everybody. This is a family. This is a collective. Everybody has the opportunity to speak.
Just
There's
in
no
that
one
moment.
person.
It's just in the moment. I feel like.
Yeah, no, this question is open to everybody.
I would say, let's see, a misconception. That's a good question. I think a common misconception could be they could just stop, like if they should, or they could just stop if they want to.
Yeah.
Like it's that easy. Which in part, like I would agree. Like the person does have power.
Yeah.
Like if they like to overcome if they choose to. I know like the first step of like AA or NA said we admitted we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives have become unmanageable, stuff like that. But in a sense, I agree, but then at the same time I disagree. And this kind of goes back to the addiction being a disease. Like I totally understand where people are coming from with that. I understand there's like scientific studies and stuff that have been done. But I think addiction is, if you do classify it as a disease, it's much different than all other like I would say traditional diseases that one could
right. Like
could
cancer
incur.
or
Yeah,
diabetes or something. Right.
But so I would just say if the person, an individual does have power to overcome, but they'd have to really, really like come to terms with themselves and make that choice. Right. I don't think that addiction, if you see it as a disease, it's something that you'll just struggle with for the rest of your life, and you don't have a choice, and it's just going to control you, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't do anything about it. Because that's what I was taught coming into like these different like programs and detoxes. Addiction's a disease. Addiction is a disease. It is, but I would just respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
Because I think that we do have power over that addiction.
Yeah.
And being a person of faith, like I believe if God can heal you, then he can heal you.
That's right.
And he can break that chain. And I'm not gonna struggle the rest of my life every single day. Oh my God, I need heroin, or I'm thinking about heroin. I'm so tempted. Like I have this disease. Like no, like God, when he came into my life and he interrupted my miserable life. It was not an overnight thing, but I would say within a couple months, like I found myself healed. Mm-hmm. Like I don't struggle with that disease any longer. So I would say that we all have a sin problem. That's perspective as a Christian. We have a problem called sin, and sin manifests itself. Not to like preach, but I will a little bit.
Okay.
But sin, like it is, we see sin manifests itself in different ways in different people's lives, and so the problem isn't the addiction, but it's sin, and God. I believe God broke the power of sin through the blood of Christ, and if we receive him, I believe I'm set free, and I'm no longer struggling with this disease. Like God broke the power of sin by the blood of Jesus shed on the cross, and I'm set free. I don't struggle with this disease any longer. But that would just be my respectful opinion.
Mm-hmm. All right. Before you ask the next question, I also want to add that the affliction and the iniquity, the addiction and the affliction and the iniquities, I believe for me, it wasn't so much. I'm never gonna call it a disease.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna call it that. That was my process. Because a lot of things are tested, tried to only come out to be true. And the thing about it is that a lot of these things we go through, people want to label and say, if you cared about your children, if you cared about yourself, if you this, if you that, it has nothing to do with that, because you don't know what I ask God for every day, and you don't know why this is my process that was put on my life. This is my process for me to have faithfulness and endurance, for me to get from point A to point B.
That's right.
So the judgment that's made when people are in active addiction, people should just step back, because judge ye not, ye not be the judge.
Right.
That might be my plight today, but if you're not standing in the right position, and you don't mind what you saying in your judgment, that could be your plight tomorrow.
That's
the
right.
best thing you can do if something does not digest well with you, or you do not understand, is not place judgment, but realize that this is only that person's process.
Right.
And once you come to terms with that this is only gonna make this person stronger, or it's gonna destroy them. And if you don't know what side to choose, or whatever the outcome gonna be, make it your point to pray for them.
That's right.
Why
That's
don't you
right.
pray for their deliverance and their recovery, instead of placing judgment on what they need to do and how they need to do it, and what type of person they are, because it hasn't happened for them yet. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, I think the common misconception, and everyone pretty much touched base on this, is that it's a moral dilemma, but it's not something that's an act of choice. I feel like everyone has something that makes them at 100%. Like everyone in the world, everyone has like a habits or routines that makes them feel at 100%. So a lot of people that talk about active addiction is just getting off E. So you're depleted, you're feeling like you're on zero, and you just need something to get you off E. And everyone has something that gets them off E. Right. So once you get used to like that feeling, you start to crave that feeling. Like, it's a progressive, for me, I do believe it's a disease, it's an illness. It's progressive and it's fatal. Anything you do enough, you'll begin to do it more and more. Like, we see this with people that go to the gym, like they call them gym rats now. But some people see it as a healthy habit. You know what I mean? Like,
Hey.
A day.
yeah, so it's like, but there's certain things that we view acceptable in society where we're like, oh yeah, that's a healthy habit. But there's certain people that have exercised to the point that it begins to deteriorate their body.
Come
or
on now.
you know, there's certain afflictions that they go through because they've done it excessively.
That's right.
So there are different things that people might want to identify as addiction, and then some people won't. I feel like there was a twofold question. There was another thing that everyone was touching based on.
Talking about stigma. The question he was asking was about, was it
I
kind
would
of
like to say gym fanatic,
The
not gym
common
rat.
misconceptions, like what is something that people think about people that are addicted? Like, what are the common misconceptions around people that are addicted?
That they're bad people.
Yeah.
You know, that they're bad people. Yeah, uneducated, low lives, criminals, junkies, dope fiends, whores.
Yeah.
Even like just lifestyle. Like, there's, like they say, if the drugs don't get you, the lifestyle will. Like, and it's a lot of people that you find yourself caught up into drugs because of a certain particular lifestyle that it just goes hand in hand.
Right.
Like for a lot of sisters that I know that started off dancing.
Yep.
You know, you come into the club and there's people there that's like, oh, this will just cut the edge a little bit. And, you know, you might take a drink or you might pop a pill. For different people, they might be into certain lifestyles that are dangerous. So it's like, oh, just to take the edge off of certain things, or something happens, or you just got in a fight and you got your ass whooped. Excuse my French. I know my... You know, where you just got your... And they're like, oh, smoke a blunt about it. Like, you'll be all right. You know what I mean? So it's just like little things like that people... And honestly, like, there's a lot of things that it's normalized. You know, depending on what community you come from, there's certain things that just normalized. There's certain behaviors that are expected of you, or you kind of expected of yourself, where I was just saying this the other day, where I was like, we need more leaders in the community. And like, it's a scary subject to touch base on, because a lot of leaders get killed or taken off or defamed or put in jail, or different things happen to that. And I don't want to speak that into the universe, but I definitely feel you. But it's a touchy subject, which is why a lot of people don't want, I'm going to be honest, a lot of people don't want to be leaders, don't want to take that role. It's easier to just sit back and to do what's expected of you, or to do what's not expected of you. Like, to not be, it's easier to be nothing and not work towards something than it is to like give your all towards something you really want.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm going to have the disease of addiction for the rest of my life. I will not be an active addict for the rest of my life. Like, I realized that the drugs and the alcohol was just a symptom of my disease. Once I put down the drugs and alcohol, it went right back around to me finding, different people, places, and things, finding like objects, or you know what I mean? One day it might be glasses, sometimes it might be grills, sometimes it might be rings. I'm like, I need it, but also learning to be okay without it. Like that's recovery.
Yes.
Learning that none of this stuff makes me, and that if I take all of this off, the void is not there. I know who I am. Or sometimes I might put down the drugs and alcohol and pick up just different things.
It could be something simple.
Girl, you ain't never lied. I said, listen, goddamn it, I'm about to take it back to Sister Soldier. I said, whatever happened to Midnight? Whatever happened to Akimi after her father took her to Japan? Like, and I'm like, yo, because honestly, right now, I'm starting to realize certain behaviors in myself, like where it's not exactly like, I wouldn't say a void. Maybe it is a void, but there's a little part of me. I'm gonna be completely transparent.
Yeah.
I got this thing where I want to fix, manage, and control everything around me because I feel like I see certain things in people, and I want to change it. I want better relationships with my family. I want a better relationship with my biological mother. Like, we've been back and forth my whole life. So it's like I want so bad for her to understand certain things that I have times that I am in that place of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, trying to fix, manage, and control something that's out of my control. Serenity prayer says, accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So what do I have control over? Myself. What do I not have control over? My mother. But a lot of times, I'll have that void because we need our mothers.
Right.
We might not want to say this, but we need our mothers, and we need our fathers, and we need our elders. We need all those people. And I'm such a crybaby.
That's right.
And that's why I stay quiet so
baby
much.
girl. Get it
But
out,
we
baby.
need them.
That's right.
Like, and we don't want to act like we need them because we're in a world where it's much cooler to act like you got everything together and you
That's
don't
right.
need nobody. But I fucking need my mother.
That's right.
I need my grandmother.
That's right.
I need my father.
That's
I
right.
needed to be loved on as a child. I
That's
needed
right.
to be raised up in a certain way so that when I grow old, I won't depart from that way.
That's
I needed
right.
that. But because that was not given, nose ring falling out, it's
Take
cool.
it out, babe. Let it fall, baby.
Listen.
Take
Because
it
I
off.
wasn't given that,
Yes.
I searched for that and everything else. That mother working overtime that had no time to spend with her daughter, I played with my dolls, and my dolls gave me love. For those fathers that wasn't around, I looked for love in every little boy that I fucking met. Like, that's a problem for me. And now I'm at a place today where I do my step work. I go to meetings. I try to go to at least 3 to 5 a week because I need it. I'm sick like that. I know God. I love God. But you can't just live in this world where it's just you and God, because God didn't just place us to be us and God.
That's
we could have
right.
we was with God before we was in our mother's womb.
That's right.
We could have stayed right there. But we came here for a reason. So I try my best to connect with other people and get to know other people and like get to know their story and share my story as well. But I can't change where people are at in their walk. And 3 things that they said about not just the disease or recovery, but 3 things that I feel like is indispensable in everybody's relationship is honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And those 3 things are different with every person. How honest are you willing to get? Like, because some people will be like, well, I smoke a little weed, but it ain't that serious. Or I might lace my blunt, but it ain't that serious. I might pop a perk, but it ain't that serious. Meanwhile, the whole time it is that serious. It's that serious.
That part.
When it gets to the point where it starts to manifest on the outside, where we can see it on the outside and you're no longer hiding it on the inside, it's that serious. But that's the honesty portion. We're not in a society where we're able to be open and honest with each other, because a lot of times as soon as we get honest, we get taken advantage of. Soon as we show our vulnerability, you're a punk, you're a bitch, you're acting like a girl, you get taken advantage of, all types of things. So we don't want to be completely honest. So we're not honest with ourselves. And when we're not honest with ourselves, we can't be honest with nobody else.
That's right.
So open-mindedness. Open-mindedness says that my way is not the only way. His way is not the only way. But being open and minded enough to like take the cotton out my ears and put it in my mouth and listen to what he has to say. Because what he might say to me today might save me tomorrow. You know, I might not be able to apply it to my life right now in the moment. But I bet you, by golly, wow, 10 years from now, I might be like, you know what? I remember something like, I don't know if you mind me sharing this, but I know Siobhan for years now. We go back maybe like 20 years. So like for me, I didn't even know that I had a problem until I got arrested for something and I was forced to go to OCC and go to meetings and get my papers signed. I was a teenager. I was 17 when I got my first case. So it was one of those things like, I didn't realize I had a problem and my offense was fighting. Like, this is a violent offense, but how does the violence tie into addiction? Like, where?
Right.
So for me, that was the seed right there. That was like, you don't see it now, but you'll be back. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see it now. That was the gem that 10 years later when I was beat the fuck up and I was just low, down. I was tired of being tired of myself. I was tired of the decisions that I was making all my life. And I was tired of wanting to change but couldn't change. Like, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep blacking out places? Why do I keep blacking out and fighting places? Why do I keep getting arrested? Why do I keep stealing? Why do I keep doing this? Like, why? And like getting to the point where I was just like, yo, the same place I was mandated to go and get paper signed, I found my way back there, but I wasn't mandated at this point. I just went. So it's one of those things like something that gets said to you one time or you get exposure to something, you never know when you're going to need it. But thank God that it was given to you, you know, and now I'm at a place where I can see how certain things tie back in together, you know, so full now circle. I'm working on that. Every time I see myself slipping, I'm like, okay, this is getting excessive. Codependency, trauma bonding, sex addiction. I had to put down the D for a minute. Like, you know what? I'm all set. Like, no, for real.
Yeah.
Because one is too many, and sometimes 1,000's never enough. If you're using it in that manner, if you're using sex to fix a feeling with a feeling, and you wake up and you realize you still got that feeling, and now you're chasing that feeling, it's like, it's the same thing, but just in a different manner. So for me, like this is my life. Like when I say recovery's my life, this is my life. I do this every day. And you can ask my baby, she be getting tired of me, but like I see people, I talk to people that are in active addiction every day. I talk to people who are in recovery every day. I go to meetings every day. I pray every day. I meditate every day. And that's my obsession and my compulsion. Right. But I got to do it every day. And shout out to my predecessor. She just said this the other day. She was like, there's certain things that we need to do obsessively and compulsively, you know, because I remember when I wasn't doing certain things, I wasn't getting up and taking a shower and combing my hair and brushing my teeth. Like I was in bed, not wanting to get out, close the window, you know, make a phone call, like, who got it? What's up? Let's put a couple dollars together, like.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Let me, okay.
We gotta move on to another topic.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Let me tell you, stop. I'm talking about, don't do it. Listen, I'm talking about the first play.
You gotta put the mic up.
I'm talking about the first play. You know when you go see the dealer, right? You that first play when he woke up. You waking him up, right? You that very first one. And you that very last one. Matter of fact, you don't even go home.
Ooh.
You waiting on him to call you saying that he done rewound. Ooh. That he read up. It gets so bad. It was so bad. I'm telling you, hold up. It was so bad to the point, like, you can't even wrap your mind around what I'm about to tell you though. Like, it was so bad to the point that they be like, shorty, you need to go home. Like, I'm talking about addiction. Like thousands and thousands of dollars just to not even be with nobody, like just to sit with self and feel shattered and cry. Like, this what you pay your money for? This what you pay your money for? You just want to sit here and cry? That's what you do? This what we doing? Like, because the emptiness and the void is so real being away from God. That the emptiness and the void is so real. The emptiness and the void is so real being away from God that it's not. It starts as a child, and it's so captivating, and it's so consuming that it's like, hold up, I got it. It's like, thank you.
said, I got this.
Okay, how do I do it?
It's too good.
Listen,
That was
so
sweet.
it's just like
Thank you.
when your addiction is just at an all-time high, and the people have to ask, they are basically petitioning to get you out the building because you basically, they said it's to the point they say, Shorty, you live here?
Ooh. Oh my God! I'm glad you're telling
That's
this
when
story.
you know you're in too deep.
100%. Tell it.
I mean,
Yes.
you can't make it up.
Period.
They be like, you need to go home, take a couple days off.
Oh, and you paying them.
I'm the only one to pay your car note.
Goddamn. Let me ask about because all you guys are very spiritual, religious, or found your higher power. What about those people who are like atheists or those people who are struggling to find
Yes.
their higher power?
Yes.
Like how does
Yeah, so I'm gonna tie it in too, because I wanted to back up to the question about the stigma point, and I
Yeah.
just use my I just no, it's all together. It's all
Yeah.
together, bro. Trust me, I'm on point. I'll follow you. You know, I do my recovery right by faith. Right, I started my recovery by faith, but I've done it multiple ways. Right, I've been through the Christian program, the teen challenges I did. They call it the Smart Recovery. I fasted for 6 or 7 days with just water. I've been in and out of programs from up and down the East Coast. I've done recovery 1,000 different ways, right? And so for me, right, I saw my mother was an alcoholic, and she stopped cold turkey one day, right? So me, it's about, for me, overcoming addiction is about that other side of that habits of establishing healthy habits that we discussed. It's about reconnecting, disconnecting from a negative lifestyle, of lifestyle behavior, right, and reconnecting with self. So. My mom, she was spiritual. She but she didn't go to church or nothing like that. But she believed in God. I'm just saying she just stopped one day. Boom, bada bing, bada boom, right? And so, so when it comes to people that don't believe in a higher power, if they're atheists, or some people don't even, when it comes to them, for me, it's the spiritual principles behind recovery that keeps a person one day at a time, along with their decision making and the people surrounding them, their ability to latch on and be supported by the people around them. Gives them the ability to overcome their addiction one day at a time. And I'm gonna give myself as another example. When I went into Boston Treatment Center, Cab Detox, your boy was tore up. I had blood on this, no shoe. I had blood. I had two coats that I had stole out the trash bin up there in Grove Hall, right behind Flames. And I went to Boston Detox, right? I had no shoes on my feet. It was raining. I was tore down from the floor down, right? And I didn't know how I was going to make it, right? And what I decided was that, you know how I'm going to make it? I'm just going to be productive. I'm going to produce. I'm going to put myself into an environment that I can be successful at and win. So once I went through that detox, I didn't pass go. I didn't collect $200. I just produced. I didn't. Anything that, if I was told to go to do the detox, to cut people out of your mind and just do the detox, I did the detox like I was doing time. I just sat there and I did what I was supposed to do. Applied the principles and.
Sorry, don't eat that next to the mic.
My bad.
I applied the principles, this NA and AA principle that I love. Through our inability to accept personal responsibility, we actually created our own problem. So I took personal responsibility for myself, for my recovery, and for the position that I found myself in. I did the detox, and then I just started connected to resources and everything like that. I call it sticking to the script. Right? I stuck to my script. right? And it brought me to going back to school and being a positive person in the community. And the thing about leaders, Con, is that most leaders are in high places, but we need leaders on the ground.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
But so that I guess I'm not really trying to answer your question. I'm just trying to shed light on my thought process on seeing people in recovery and what it takes to overcome addiction and things like that. Like I said, I personally, really, honestly do not care because it's so complex. And people get caught up, majoring on minor and minoring on major things, right? Because they allow that to stop them from their recovery because they say, it's a disease. Oh, it's this. No, man, what you need to do, right, is apply these spiritual principles. Is love yourself, right? Learn to love and accept yourself, right? Is to be open-minded. Someone said it. Open willingness. The three NAAA principles, right there, right? Be open-minded. Produce. Be productive. Every morning you get up, just do the next right thing. This is the last thing I'm saying. I'm gonna land the plane, right?
All right. Shout out to Leah. Rest in peace, Angel.
When I was in the street, right, and like I said, I was so tore down. But and this is what I mean by faith, right? My faith, right? I was in the street. I was so tore down, right? This guy said to me, I talked to an OG dude. He was like, I was like, man, you know what? I go hard, right? I said, I just go hard. Everything I do, I go hard at it, right? And he was like, I was like, man, I know I got to slow down. And he said, young boy, right, don't slow down, right? And a lot of people, and I mean, he means slow down running the streets and drinking and stuff like that, right? And a lot of people would take that as, this guy giving you the worst advice ever, right? But for me, drew insight in the spiritual lens, looked at that as I already knew that I was an overcomer even when I was active in my addiction, right? Slowing down, taking time to think. All I had to do was walk into that opportunity for me to come to the realization, right, that it's time for me to take the next step.
So you
a better step.
You didn't believe in being powerless over your...
I did. I believe when I was powerless over my addiction and my life had became unmanageable, right, is when I was blacked out. When I lost all mental and bodily functioning or thought. But once I regained my conscious thought and I had the ability, the will to make a decision, see, and that's another thing. That's why I don't get caught up in the disease or not, because some people, at the moment that you catch them, we talk about stigma and the way people see them, some people at that moment, you can't just tell them to pull themselves up at that on the bootstraps at that moment, because at that moment they may not be able to make a conscious decision, right, to make the next best decision for their life, right? And a lot of times when people start in the morning, you're good. In the morning, you may be able to just get that little hit or that little drink, right? And you're still good. But once you're full blown on that run, there's no pass. I'm gonna say it again. There's no pass and go. There's no collecting 200 on that. You're gone, right? And the only time you can get back into reach, and for me, I went on binges. I went on vicious binges, right? And the only time that I would stop, people could talk to me till they turn blue in the face. Only time I would stop is either I got stabbed or hit by a car. And I mean that means I was incapacitated. That means I was incapacitated. So yes, that's what I'm saying. It's complex, and like I said, it's until people see, and this is another aspect of addiction that's very important. It's still a choice to make a decision to stop doing it. Or to go to the hospital and get MAT, or to do whatever. You still making a choice, and so that's just a point that I want to make. But once again, respect the time.
I just want to say tolerance.
That was crazy.
Tolerance levels and different bottoms. Like different people have different tolerance levels and different bottoms. So whereas me and you might be able to go through the exact same thing, but I'm like, oh, that's enough for me. And you might be like, that ain't nothing. You know what I mean? Right. So, or we might be able to drink the same amount or get hit by the same car, and then one of us get back up and just, so it's dependent on the person and dependent on the tolerance. And I think that's another thing that people have the misconception of, is when they see one person do one thing, and they base everybody's recovery. Everyone's recovery is based off of that one person that they knew. So it's just like it's very different. Like while the disease might not be unique, everyone's story is individualized to who they are and what their capacity is.
Okay, I just want to drop something real quick. I get in and out. You know what I'm saying? In and out. Move around. I just want to say that I actually went into recovery knowing that I went into addiction with the mindset of knowing this too will pass.
Yes.
And then knowing that I went in wholeheartedly knowing that if I ask him for this, he might not come when you want him, but he's always going to be on time.
That's right.
I say that to say this. When I got stabbed, it was like, okay, I got stabbed. I didn't go to the hospital. My nephews pulled up. Here, auntie, let me see the wound. You want some? You want smoke? Auntie, did you really get stabbed? Nigga, it's right here. Yeah, I really got stabbed. All right, give me a handful of stuff. We blazing. Ambulance followed the trail of blood. Like, shorty, you're not going to go to the hospital? That's what we doing? Like, yeah, I was going to get there when I got there. I'm smoking right now. I'm turning up. It is what it is. So, it was like, that didn't faze me. Even at that moment, it was like, God, I'm going to get this to you. Because I didn't do nothing to deserve this. So, at that point, I'm litty. Like, God got something on, that's all part of his perfect plan. I'm about to come up. I'm saying, because if it don't make dollars, it's never going to make sense. So with that being said, I was rejoicing because anything something tragic happens to me, I give it to the Lord ASAP, on sight. Because I know the power of praise. And when your whole situation seems upside down, woo, that's when you drop it like it's hot.
Ooh,
that's when you go in for the kill. If you don't know, now you know. I'm trying to tell you, can't make it up. So, with that being said,
drop a bomb on them.
Drop a bomb.
Look,
first.
But Siobhan, if somebody says, how can you still, how can you be going through something as intense as that and still keep the faith? Like, what do you say to that person?
Because when you know what you know, some of this stuff is innate. Some of this stuff is instinct, it's impulse, it's first nature.
You was raised knowing God?
I was raised loving God.
Okay.
That's something that we all was created in his superior.
Yeah.
In his superiority.
Yeah.
And the only thing is that all we have to do, when we feel love, that's how you know God. The first time you experience love, whether it's for yourself, your mother, or whoever else, that's when
that's
you
good.
know God.
That's good.
You don't have to wait for somebody to introduce God to you. Because you know God. And then when he's introduced to you and you seek his face, he's not going to hide his from yours.
Yeah.
But you know God. To all those that don't know God, when Jesus Christ is introduced to you, don't second guess it. Don't fight the feeling.
Ooh.
Because that's your creator. And you know when something feels right.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we all in the room at the same place on one accord. Now, we all can't be wrong. I'm just saying.
That's it. You just saying.
Okay, I'm just saying. But now when I say, I'm gonna get to the meat and potatoes. When I say that he's always on time, so I got stabbed, that wasn't enough. I go back to the block, have 5 more fights, turn up, still smoking, ain't no thing but a chicken wing. So it wasn't until my daughter.
Yeah.
It wasn't until my daughter, the look in her eyes, and the conversation that takes place, and then it was a disengaged look. It was a disconnect. Now, this is something I've never experienced with my daughter, because that's my best friend. That's my unconditional, that's my ride or die. So when I say I look in your eyes and I can't find my perfect peace, we have a problem.
Yeah.
When I look in your eyes and I'm not being completed, and I feel like I'm not being able to complete you at this moment or on this date at this time, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Believe that. So with that being said, I knew for a fact that it was something else going on.
Yeah.
So due to the fact that she had started to blame herself for me, and on top of that, that was a double up. That she was blaming herself for my BS.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I got stabbed, which means, shorty, you don't even realize what's going on in front of you.
Yeah.
You brought these 2 angels. I have 2 daughters, by the way. You brought these 2 angels here, my nigga, and what you telling me is that you don't care enough about them. You put yourself in harm's way because you want to get high. All right, now it's crunch time.
Right.
This is either gonna make you or break you, babe.
Yep,
because the thing about it is that, real talk, that either you're a man or a mouse, either you're a woman or you're a shell of a woman. Now this is where we're gonna see what you're made of, because it's over. It's over, boo. It's over. It's over. Because now things done got real. And you know you're on the front line. And we're not doing this. And second of all, Shorty needs you. That's your angel. God sent her here for you. So you don't have to look in the arms of Jack, Daniel, Tony, and whoever, you know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? You don't have to look in the arms of other people because that was your gift. You carried her in jail. It couldn't have been no more realer than that.
Right.
Okay? The most beautifulest thing in the world look just like them. Okay? And if that's not enough, nothing's gonna be enough.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing will ever be enough. If they're not enough, nothing will ever be enough. And at that point, when she needed me and I got stabbed with a double up, he didn't show up all them years, but he showed up right on time. Before something happened to my shorty, before she was suicidal and took her life, because it was when I say things was getting dangerous, I mean things was getting serious. Okay? So before things got out of control, that's when he showed up on her behalf, and it was nothing realer than that for me. That you showed up on her behalf. That's
right,
all
on her behalf. Right.
That's all I'm gonna know. Okay, y'all go ahead. That's the end of my story, but I just I dropped that because I want to break it into sections.
No, yeah, thank you for that, because I know that we are on a time crunch, but personally I don't really care because there are people out here who are at their, and I'm gonna say it how I feel it, motherfucking last. You feel me? Who are going, who feel like it's some people out there who don't have resources. It's some people out there who don't have family. It's some people out there that don't have even have a cardboard box to write anything on. You know what I mean? And so sometimes programs or media outlets or channels like this serve as an olive branch to that person or to that organization, because we don't just appeal to singular people. You know, we appeal to couples, we appeal to businesses, we appeal to organizations. So yes, we are on a time crunch 100%, but every story matters because there's context behind that story that you have told, and that context makes that story that much more important. So I appreciate everybody for being mindful of the time, but it's just some things that time just it exceeds and expands. So with that being said, we will take a break right now, but we will be coming back. So let's
okay then.